Hello. Today I'll be talking about the different types of storage solutions that you can choose for your next PC build. Firstly, let's start off with the slowest of the three storage solutions, which is the hard drive. So the way a hard drive actually works is by having a stack of the spinning disks that are coated in a magnetic film, spin at a very fast rate, upwards of like 72,000 RPM, like very fast speeds. Then in between each disk, there is a head that reads and writes data. And the way it does this is by having groups of it, groups of parts of the disk that are called bits, be aligned a certain way magnetically. And then this is read, and the alignment represents either a 1 or a 0, which, in other words, it represents binary code, which is the code that is used by computers to understand everything. As I mentioned earlier, hard drives are the slowest of the three modern storage solutions in this day. However, they are one of the cheapest solutions that are out there. But also, hard drives are the most fragile, as they have actual physical connectors, physical things that are inside of the drive that can break mechanically and stuff like that. If you're gonna get a hard drive, I don't recommend using it as a boot drive, as it is extremely slow compared to like an SSD. So what I recommend using a hard drive for is stuff like mass storage, like storing files, like Word documents, stuff like movies if you want to watch movies, and games and stuff like that. Now, the next storage solution that I'd like to talk about is the SSD. Now, the SSD is a lot different from a hard drive, because it contains no moving parts in it. An SSD, a traditional 2.5-inch SSD, is comprised of a circuit board and a bunch of NAND flash chips on the circuit board that contain the data which is written to it. Now, the advantage over a traditional hard drive with an SSD is that it is much, much faster than a hard drive. And also, an SSD is much less fragile. You can honestly play basketball with an SSD, and it'll most likely be fine. But if you did that with a hard drive, it would for sure break. However, in contrast to a traditional hard drive, the SSD costs a lot more per gigabyte than a hard drive. But honestly, I think that's worth it to have the much faster speeds than a hard drive. So what I recommend is using an SSD as your boot drive rather than using it for mass storage. Now, the last SSD is a particularly pretty new kind of drive. This SSD uses the M.2 connector. This is a new connector that is found on some new motherboards, and if you watched my video about motherboards, then you'd know that I've mentioned this in the video. Now, these M.2 drives are basically also SSDs because they use NAND storage. And there are two different types of M.2 drives. There are the ones that use the SATA interface, which is the same as the SSD, so they'll have the same speeds, and a new one that uses a interface called NVMe, Non-Volatile Memory Express. The new M.2 drive, the NVMe drive, basically uses the same kind of interface as PCIe, and with that, it can get much, much faster speeds than even an SSD. And this is the storage solution for true enthusiasts, I believe. But honestly, you'd be fine using a normal, regular SSD as your boot drive. This is because the new NVMe M.2 SSDs are much, much more expensive than regular SSDs, and it's quite a lot to pay for a drive. So yeah, that's basically all there is to know about SSDs, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. If you want to know anything else about PCs, then go ahead and watch some of my other videos. Yeah, thank you for watching.